Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Aliesha Embleton. Mrs. Aliesha, how are you doing, ma?
I'm great, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Aliesha. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mrs. Aliesha. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a childhood development coach. Can you please, Mrs. Aliesha, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Aliesha?
Yeah, look, of course, thank you. So yes, like you mentioned, I have written a book. It's called From Seed to Sapling. I and it was a great success. It won an award last year for best nonfiction book, which was wonderful, and was an Amazon #1 bestseller. I do work with families and children in helping to support the child development. So a lot of my work focuses on three particular pillars. So I focus around resilience, authenticity, and the third pillar is something that I call entrepreneurial spirit. Now, this is not necessarily about starting a business. Entrepreneurial spirit is about the mindset and the way in which these kids approach the world around them. So it's things like critical thinking, problem solving, that healthy relationship with failure, all of these sorts of things. And so, yes, I work with them to help develop these skills, both directly with the kids, but also with the parents in helping them provide that guidance and support in how can they support these kids that are growing up in their world.
Honestly speaking, that is very beautiful. And congratulations on your book, which is the new best-selling. And also, I would like to also dive to that book, Mrs. Alicia. Can you please discuss more on the book From Seeds to Sapling? And do you also have more book you are planning to write in the coming future, Mrs. Alicia?
But I would love to discuss the book. It's something that came to me a little while back, and is it's something that I'm just really passionate about, and it really started showing up for me in seeing the various different children that are in my world. So friends' kids, my step kids, just all of these different children that were in and amongst the space that I was in, and seeing them navigate through the what is called middle childhood. So it's ages 6 to 12, roughly, and the unique time frame that is in their development. Um, you know, it, During this stage of life, they're no longer little kids anymore, but they're also not teens yet. That they're kind of in this bridging world between the two. And because of that, they have really unique challenges, really unique needs. There's a really unique approach that we can bring to child development so that they are then ready to face those adolescence years. And what the book does is it talks about these three pillars that I work with and bringing some practical insights and practical tips and guidance for parents in how can they bring this into their kids' world. So it's got a number of different strategies and tips and tools and all sorts of different things. There's a quiz in there. There's all sorts of stuff to be able to help these parents with some practical information and in a way that makes sense. We can go around reading all up about resilience and growth mindset and all of these sorts of things, but it's bringing all of those sorts of key things down into a really nice, easy to digest read that is it's clear, it's concise, it makes sense, and it's practical. That's really what I wanted to create for these parents. And all of the feedback so far has been very much aligned with that, which is great because it means that I've been able to really achieve what I wanted to achieve with the book. Um, and to your other question, is there going to be another one? There certainly will. I don't know when, but I've got a number of different topics that I would love to write another book on. So there will be more to come in the coming years.
Mm, Definitely be expressing that. That's just the beauty of books sometimes. Assisting parents in this type of time that we are even currently in childhood time is very important. And also guiding them in the right path they need to be to know how to groom this child. 6 to 12 is a age that they are not kids and they are also not yet mature, which is very important. And I myself, I used to believe that 6 to 12 is just like the best time one can have to, there's nothing they are thinking about, they just that is where, that's maturity starts to come in. Those situation they have that time is what is going to, drive when they mature. So, those time are really more fun. When someone is mature, it's always tough. Reality comes. So it's just the truth, but you have to just accept it. Thank you so much for the insights, Mrs. Alicia. I would like to dive to the point of childhood as a childhood development coach. So I would like to dive to the crucial mindsets when it comes to what child really need in our today environment. So what do you think are the most crucial mindsets children need today to grow to resilient and adaptable adults, Mrs. Alicia?
Look, it's a really big question, that one. I love that question because that's something that every parent is thinking of. What is the most crucial thing that I need to be focusing on? How can I best help serve these kids that I'm raising to be able to help, as you say, resilient and adaptable adults? And and I think that we often tell kids to be strong, but what they really need is the mindset that it is okay to struggle. It is okay to reflect. It is okay to then come back stronger because of that. That's actually what true resilience is. It is facing that there is going to be a struggle. It's taking the moment to pause and actually reflect on what you're learning from that, and then to implement that so that you are in a better position at the other side of that adversity. And resilience is the foundation of all of the work that I do. And in my opinion, a really critical foundation, just full stop, in everything that we develop. But I think where we are missing the point with so many things that so many conversations that happen around resilience is that resilience alone is not enough. We actually need to be developing more in these kids. Authenticity and this entrepreneurial spirit that I talk about, these actually help kids to adapt. They help them to lead with integrity. You know, these are these are what we actually need from that adaptable adult perspective, what you were just talking about. And resilience is going to get us part of the way there, but we need more to be able to actually fulfill the developing of these children into adaptable adults. They need that growth mindset. They need that emotional agility, the flexible thinking, that self-trust from that internal validation sort of perspective there, this, healthy relationship with failure and this positive sort of mindset around the learning journey. So many different things there that come into creating those adaptable adults.
Hmm. That is very, very interesting. I have to be honest with you, Mrs. Alicia, because, as a child, having this type of, resilience, getting the child to build in those type of area is very important, most especially in our time today. Because, most of the time, sometimes kids will just probably believe that they might be the only one facing the situation, and that might not even really be the case sometimes, but having a parent who will really know how to guide them, to let them know life is tough, that is how life is. You just have to continue to move on. You just have to accept it. You have to just have this type of, I just have to know how to move on, know how to do things in the right way, and just build that character. I think that's with, and this time that we are having, as you said earlier, is very important. That entrepreneurial skill is very important because they have to have that idea. They have to develop it from childhood. Because for them to survive, for everybody to survive currently now, they have to be financial, assistance now in our time today. So it is very important. Those are the very, very powerful pictures a child needs to have in his child to develop when he's an adulthood. It could make it it would really help him or her in a very long way. Thank you so much for the insight, Mrs. Alicia. And I also like to go to top skills. I do not know, maybe resilience is part of skills, but I would just like to dive to top skills you feel like in our time today, technology is everywhere. We're not really connected to that nature. There's not really more community like before. So, what do you think are the top life skills you believe that every children should learn that aren't often taught in schools currently, Mrs. Alicia?
So, oh, see, that's a hard question. what, because trying to restrict it down to just the top life skills, and I think I probably come back to around those same sorts of three pillars that I work on, and I see these categorized into three different types of life skills. So yes, there's resilience, and that's around, failing forward, it's bouncing back, it's all of those sorts of things. There's the authenticity and the interpersonal skills that is around setting boundaries, that self-trust, all of those sorts of skills. And then I think the third one that I call entrepreneurial spirit, but I think what we're looking at here is that self-direction skills. So that critical thinking, decision making based on values, that ability to be independent and really sort of driving forward with things. But I think what your question actually raises for me is also the differing viewpoints that people hold on who is actually responsible for developing these life skills. It's quite a controversial point at the moment. Is it the schools that are meant to be developing this? Is it the parents? Who should be responsible for developing these key life skills that we're talking about here? And I, I guess I pose a question, is it the schools? Is it the parents? Is there actually this third group, like a specialist group who actually focus on life skills in child development as their area of expertise and that they bring this learning to this next generation? I think this is all very much a big point of question at this point in time. There's a lot of conversations happening and a lot of um, you know differing perspectives on this point, and I think it's a really unique moment where we're trying to work out that exact answer, and what does that look like. I think that we have all of these incredible specialist teachers out there, these incredible art teachers, these science teachers, like all of these amazing specialties in what we're teaching children. I think the piece that we need to add to this is that specialist teacher for life skills. So, and actually bring in this specialist who can support that child development around these sorts of areas.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I completely agree with you. That is the big question currently, to be honest with you, because if there is, and that is one of the big opportunities in our time today, because these kids definitely needs a very, very good skills, probably a very top skill that would definitely be important. Despite the tools that we have right at the front of us currently, they have to be, skills that they have to develop during that time. So definitely, it's just the right question. Who should be in charge of it? Is it the parents? Is it the school? I think it's a very big question that we definitely have answer when it comes to the time in the coming future. Honestly speaking, so I sincerely thank you for that insight, Mrs. Adisha. I would also like to dive to the point of creativity. Creativity is very powerful. One of the most powerful thing that is very important in our time today is creativity, because when the creativity is there, then everything probably also follows in its own ways. So what do you think, what role do you feel like creativity also play in preparing children for careers that may not even exist yet in our time currently, Mrs. Alisha?
But I think creativity is a survival skill in a world where automation is rising. As you say, there are a whole bunch of careers that don't currently exist that will be in the new world. Um, and I guess what we need to remember is that creativity is not something that can be outsourced. It's not something that we could automate. That is where it is such a survival skill. Being able to bring that creativity is a critical life skill. It's not fluff. It's really critical there. If we think of it like mental cross training sort of thing, it strengthens our brain to be able to pivot to different tasks and to bring that adaptability. It's really building that critical thinking and those problem solving muscles that we need in no matter what career it is. Because there are a whole bunch of careers that won't exist today that these kids are going to be doing. So, what is the one thing that we could do to help set them up for that? And that is to nurture and to strengthen this muscle of creativity as that sort of key for innovation and things. Because these future careers are going to demand adaptability, and creativity really is that original birthplace of that original thought. So I think one of the things that we can really do is helping kids with creative play, so that they can then tolerate that ambiguity in those future careers and that continual change and adaptability and flexibility that they need. Because this is going to be essential for so many situations that they're going to face in life, both career and otherwise. There's so many rapidly evolving industries, and what these kids are going to be joining in the workforce later, that workforce is going to look totally different to what it does today. And I think this creativity piece is so critical for that, because it really connects that imagination with the action here. So, the question of, well, what if becomes, well, let's try it. And so it's teaching kids that experimentation, that really healthy relationship with failure as something as so critical for how we practically implement this creativity development in our kids.
I completely agree with you, Mrs. Alicia. Honestly speaking, creativity is one of the most important things. Many things that are not, existing currently are going to definitely be existing in the coming future. And these are the keys that are going to definitely manage it. There are a lot of industry that deals with creativity, and a lot of people are also using it as a life skill to even survive currently. So the power of creativity is also very important when it comes to kids that are grooming today, because I think the world has really changed. I have to be honest with you, a lot of things has changed. When technology just came in, many things changes. We used to have the normal norms, but everything started to change, and we just have to accept it and know how we could train our children to get to those trends so that they won't see it very difficult during that time. So thank you very much for the insight, Mrs. Alicia. Lastly, Mrs. Alicia, I would like to dive to the red flags. Technology is beautiful. It has its good side. It definitely has its bad side. Honestly speaking, most especially for children. So, what do you think are
Mm.
some of the developmental red flags in children today, in adults, that might be missing due to probably technology and business, Mrs. Alicia?
Um, Look, I think that sometimes, I think sometimes what might look like laziness for kids, for example, that might actually be a, a hidden anxiety. And, by the same token, what looks like disinterest, that might actually be emotional overload. Um, it could be that there is this flattened emotional expression, or this sort of apathy of, I just don't care, sort of perception that we're seeing. But it could even just simply be something as simple as, and it's something that I've seen time and time again. So before I sort of started a lot of this work, I had quite an extensive career within the HR industry, so human resources. And I would see people joining the workforce year upon year upon year, where they would actually struggle with face to face communication, being able to pick up the phone and phone somebody and actually have a verbal dialogue, be it on the phone or in person, rather than hiding behind an email or a text message or some sort of written form. So I think this struggle with communication again is something that we're really seeing coming out of all of this. Along with the sustained attention issues, and yeah, there's so many sorts of elements there. But I think what we're sort of seeing is, as well, is an issue with perfectionism that is coming out of all of this. If we think of what kids are seeing is a lot of perfected ish, AI filters put on things or whatever it is. There's a lot of perfection that is being perceived through that technology sort of lens there. And so it then creates this sense of needing to be perfect, needing to have this high achievement, rather than this sense that failure is okay and it's part of the learning journey and it's going to give us so much. So I think there are a lot of developmental red flags, but perfectionism is one thing to look out for, because it is typically masked as some sort of high achievement, but it's a really big flag for us to be looking at. And, if we are seeing any of these sorts of things come up, it then raises the question of, well, what do we do? And I think in that moment, it's inviting connection, instead of trying to push for productivity, instead of trying to, keep pushing forward for a certain outcome, invite the connection. So come to a conversation, and it might be something as simple as, well, you seem a little flat today. Want to have a bit of a walk and let's have a chat. And it's just opening that opportunity for them based on some of the things that you see, be it the laziness hidden and hiding the anxiety, or the disinterest for the emotional overload, or whatever it might be that you're starting to kind of get a sense that there's something there. Open the connection opportunity.
Thank you so much for that insight. Honestly speaking, we do not know one is perfect, and also communication is definitely very important. I have to be honest
It
with
is.
you, Mrs. Alicia. The children that are coming in the next generation, I do not know how it's going to look like, because during our time, during the past, we do know community exists. Our time currently is very tough. Even as a young guy, I know it's very tough currently. And now the ones that are coming now, I think the trend is going to be of just trying to just get to wait. Like that's why I really love what you are doing, to just train these children to develop this kind of some characters that will definitely help them, because when they get to the reality of life, it's going to just be something, and people they will definitely feel. Many kids will feel like they are the only one facing it. That's why we have suicidal rates increasing. We have a lot of things really happening. A lot of children going into the bad groups. A lot of things, going on due to the issues that are going on. So the way we could train our children to just understand the perspective and the right way to live, so that they can have a very joyful life. This life is very beautiful. If you know how to just use it, honestly speaking, and to develop it in a way to also help other people who are also trying to do other great things is very beautiful. And that is the beauty of what you're doing. So also sincerely thank you for that, Mrs. Alicia. Lastly, Mrs. Alicia, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From the forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Alicia, what do you think that thing will be, Mrs. Alicia?
So I think it's a play-based childhood that we need to bring back. All of that time where they just get to be free, be creative, to, really support their problem solving through play, having that time to just simply bring that imagination and that creativity and that play-based opportunity. We need to bring that back. The kids nowadays have got such a scheduled life. They're so busy and full in their calendars the whole time. And when they're not off doing some sort of scheduled activity, they're sitting on their devices then. And so it's just providing that free time where kids nowadays will sit there turning around going, well, I'm bored. But they didn't before. They knew how to have that creative, play-based sort of time frame. And that I think is what we need to bring back.
Completely agree. We definitely need to bring it back. I used to remember when I was still young. That during that time, there's no yet really new technology. There's nothing like technology. There was just this little small phones. And during that time, everybody would come outside. We would play together. We would do a lot of things. Those really happen. And sometimes when I just see the ones that currently in this time, I'll be like, you guys are really missing a lot. In my own time, it was really fun. There's a lot of everybody will come together, fun. Everybody will just have this kind of engaging, and I think that thing is very important to come back. I think it gives the joy, it gives the valueness of the life we are into. This life is really free. When we're connected to nature, it's beautiful. It's just the type of reality that we have currently that made it to be like this. So definitely it's something that we definitely need to bring back. We don't want a boring life. Honestly, we want a life that is really more interesting and will make the world to be more valuable in its own way. I want to also use this opportunity, Mrs. Alicia, to sincerely thank you for the opportunity and the time you've given to me to speak on this childhood area. Thank you so much, Mrs. Alicia.
Oh, look, thank you, Timmy. It's been wonderful having this discussion. I think there's been so many, great questions that you've posed, which has then created so many other points of conversation for us. So it's been wonderful to have this chat. So thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Alicia. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.